You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable. Hop on YouTube, welcome to the hood table, where we chop up local and global events vocally. You don't really wanna miss out on these conversations. Just joke a little, laugh a little, get that wine in your system, fill your glass a little. Expose current events, talk trash a little. You never know, these opinions might clash a little. They addicted to the content, got them binge watching. You don't like it, then you want invited. Bet your friends watching in the house and your job parking lot before you clocking. They don't wanna miss a second of this HT content. Everybody think they got something to say, so it's an open invitation, bring it to the table. But if you come whack, just know we ain't buying in. We gon' probably turn your back and tell you sorry, try again. Yeah, welcome to the hood table. You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable. Yeah, welcome to the hood table. You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable.
What's up, everybody? Hey now. Hey, what's up? Come on in. Come on in. Kick the door open. Come in. Sit down. Grab your snacks. Grab your drink. Your drink. Hit the like button for me too. By the way, hit the like button. Show some love on your way in, and share the live if you like. And matter of fact, while I'm telling y'all to share the live, I'm going to make sure that I do it as well. Okay. Now, let me make sure I got my volume. Please let me know if my volume is off. Let me know if I'm not loud enough. Let me know if the screen ever gets a little blurry. I do be watching myself on my phone, so I could try to make sure, that we're not having any issues. And I do often do a little mic checkity check. That we're not having any issues. Like right now. And we do sound okay. So let me turn this down. All right. So again, let me know if there's any static, any issues, any if my sound is off, just let me know, because I'm doing a book review for you guys and I want to make sure I'm coming in really clear and good for everybody. So on that note, again, make sure you support the channel by hitting the like button and share the live if you like, and make sure you subscribe to the Hood Table if you're new to the platform. Hey, Na Love. Hey, Boo. You said you love the intro. Thank you, love. Thank you. I appreciate it. That is courtesy of my niece, who is a rapper. Her name is Thailand Music, Tylynn. I always put her information in every video description just in case people might want to reach out to her or work with her. But she is a very talented rapper and singer. So yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But for those of y'all who might not know, I have been talking about it for a couple of months now. The Coldest Winter book. The Coldest Winter Ever book by Sister Souljah that came out like 20 years ago. She's finally doing a part 2 of that particular book, the story of Winter Santiago. So, this book right here, The Coldest Winter Ever, this is the original one that came out 20 years ago. We are basically going to be reviewing this book, the entire book, but I'm only going to do a few chapters at a time. But we're going to be reviewing the entire book in honor of the part 2 coming out in like a month. So a couple of times a week, I'm going to review the book a few chapters at a time, leading up to when part 2 is going to come out. And once we get part 2, when the story of Santiago comes out, as far as what has been going on with Winter and whatnot, we are going to review that too as well. So yes, that's what we're going to be doing. So let me make sure I got my screen really large here. Let me see. Okay, I'm back. I don't know what was up with the screen. The screen was looking really weird. I was like, what is going on with my screen? So I had to back out and come back in. My bad. I'm going to make sure I edit that part out where the screen went black. I'm going to make sure I edit that out. once the video finished processing and everything. But anywho, so tonight, this evening, we are going to review chapters 1 through 3 of, again, The Coldest Winter Ever, in honor of part 2 of this book coming out in about a month or so. If you haven't ordered your part 2, you can do it on Amazon. I had pre-ordered my book, so I had already ordered it like way before it's was set to come out. And of course, if you pre-order it, they don't you know, charge you until your book is actually about to be shipped. So now we're going to get into the review. And again, we're starting at chapter 1 of The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Souljah. Now, we're only going to do chapters 1 through 3. So basically, if you have any comments or any thoughts on these chapters, please feel free to comment in the comment section. In the chat section. We're not going to discuss anything but what's in chapters 1 through 3, even though a lot of people might want to just jump towards things that happen later on in the book. But yeah, we're just going to try to go with the flow, through this entire book, a few chapters at a time. So, chapter 1. We start off almost immediately meeting Winter Santiago, who is the daughter of Ricky Santiago. On January 28, 1977, during one of New York's worst snowstorms ever, Winter Santiago is born to a 14-year-old mother and Ricky Santiago. And basically, from the moment Winter was born, from the moment she arrived into this world, she was loved, she was adored, and she was spoiled rotten. Her very first gift, as a matter of fact, was from her father, and it was a 24-karat gold ring that he had gave her and had placed on her little tiny finger. Now, to some who got a lot of money, that might not be much, but back in those days, jewelry was expensive. Everything was expensive. So her father really showered her with gifts immediately from like the time she was born. And the ring had to be custom fit for her little finger, and then be adjustable, as she got older. So then from head to toe, everybody in the household was kind of like that. It wasn't just Winter, but it was her mother, Winter, her siblings. It was a house full of ladies besides their father, and he always made sure that the females in the house rocked expensive jewelry, clothes, furs, every name brand designer shoes, Italian leather boots. I mean, just whatever, you name it. If a designer made it, they probably had it. One thing her mother also taught her from a very young age, as she was coming up, was that beautiful women are supposed to be taken care of. All their needs should be met. And I can see why she taught her that, because that's what she experienced. So any man that you get in the future, you should, they should be expected to be able to take care of you, provide for you, just as your father was. But anywho, yeah, so she taught her that. And her father, Santiago, made sure that all the women had everything they could want, or everything they could need, that they needed. By the age of 16, Winter was used to a life of decadence, provided by her father, Santiago. But not only did she learn lessons from her mother, as far as how you should be treated, but she also taught her how to spot a broke nickel from a mile away. Again, a man should be able to take care of her, leaving her wanting for nothing. Now, the kicker is, Winter, she grew up in the Brooklyn projects. With her mother and father, her twin sisters, Mercedes and Lexus, and her sister Porsche. And that tickles me. It always tickled me when I would hear somebody tell me that their kid's name, or that their name was was like a car name: Mercedes, Lexus, Porsche, when sometimes they look like a Honda. You know what I mean? But Anywho, that was her name of her sisters. Their house, as far as their house was laid, or should I say their apartment, their project, it was laid. They had the best furniture, they had the best bedding, all the way down to plush carpets throughout the whole entire project, throughout their whole entire apartment. They had the highest level of electronics, television. You would walk in their pad and not think you done stepped inside some projects in Brooklyn. So yeah, they had a really nice layout, where they lived in their Brooklyn projects. But even though they lived in the projects, they definitely didn't look like where they came from. They had it like that thanks to the man of the house, the hustler, Winter's father, Ricky Santiago. Now, Ricky, he was the man. He was the man in Brooklyn, running the streets with his drugs. By the age of 7, Winter Santiago, she knew a lot. But out of everything she learned from her parents, she also knew darn well to keep their family's business hush, hush, keep it quiet. It was like only on a need to know basis. Of course, like the family, her cousins, aunts, uncles, people like that, they knew what was up, and some people around the neighborhood, around the city, knew what was up. But as far as the kids and as far as Winter's mom, they weren't supposed to talk about any of that to anybody. And by the time Winter was 13, Santiago, her father, as many call him, he had a flourishing business that was constantly getting bigger day by day. So it was very important that only certain people knew certain things about him. In other words, how a lot of us grew up in this house. Y'all know how it goes. Say it with me. What happens in this house stays in this house. I was told that I don't know how many times when I was growing up. What up, Keisha Keish? What up? How you doing, homegirl? But yeah, so that's kind of was like the unspoken rule in a lot of households when we grew up. What happens in this house stays in the house. But if you ever read this book before, part 1, you know that Santiago was no stranger to a lot of people, so it was kind of hard, being on the low. When the family they be flashing, they be flossing, while living in the projects. And that is also one of the reasons why Santiago had somebody install a heavy metal second door that would stand between their front door and their actual living space, to help prevent danger to his family. And I was thinking about that because I used to stay in the projects before. Keish, no, I used to stay in the projects before, and I can imagine just installing a door. Like, you walk in your project and you walk a few feet and then there's another door like in your actual apartment, that's blocking people from getting actual access to your apartment. Like, the things they did to this project, I could never imagine doing, and I'm sure they were not planning to get their deposit back after making alterations to that apartment. They also, not only did he make put a double door in there, but he also had a carpenter build a private room in the back. So he had a private room in the back. They had installed a big old heavy metal door in the projects, for safety reasons, safety precautions, But as far as that private room goes, he used to go in there a lot. Winter's father, Santiago, used to go in there a lot to play chess by himself. And when asked why he always played alone, he basically told Winter that is how he stays on top. You got to know what each man on the board is thinking, down to the littlest motherfucker on like a pawn. In other words, the pawns are his soldiers. So if he surrounds himself with the strongest soldiers and give them all a stake, in the game, they'll keep the hood strong and tight. But every now and then, somebody out there trying to make it all the way to the top might try to test his gangster. So Santiago, he didn't play when it came to safety. He didn't play when it came to his money. He didn't play when it came to his woman nor his kids. Speaking of which, he was really overprotective of Winter, especially once she started to bloom. Once the boobs started getting bigger, once the backside started getting bigger, and she was starting to turn into a little woman, he was really overprotective with her. And sometimes he had to teach a lesson to some of the people in the hood who might have been trying or thinking about getting with his daughter. One day in particular, Santiago caught a dude eyeing down his daughter all lustfully, looking like he just want to eat her up like a big old steak. And because of that, Santiago sliced him from his right ear all the way across his face to the left ear. That dude is now known around the hood as Bubbles or Bubs. And Bubbles, and y'all might remember the name Bubbles, not the same person, but just that name in particular, because if y'all ever watched The Wire, there was a guy in there by the name of Bubbles. But anyway, he was a crackhead. But anyway, this dude, they named him Bubbles after that incident because of the fact he wasn't allowed to go to a doctor. So, because of the situation, Santiago, he had some dude come by the house by the name of Doc. He wasn't a doctor, but he had some type of medical training in the army. So, he had him try to fix him up as best as he could, as good as possible. In the end, Bubbles got his name due to his scar across his face, bubbling up. Have you ever seen a keloid? Yeah, you ever seen a keloid? Sometimes people get them on the back of their ear. Yeah, so that's why he became named as Bubbles. But as far as Winter's mother, she didn't really agree, with all of Santiago's tactics, his antics. And she would tell him things like, when a woman wants to get fucked, excuse my French, but when a woman wants to get fucked, she gets fucked. Whether it's in a car, whether it's in a closet, whether it's in a hotel, whether it's behind a tree, on the slides at the playground. Let me take a sip on that one. Not saying I have ever done anything like that before. But her mother was not lying. but still yet, her mother put her on birth control just in case. And speaking of Winter and boys or men, one guy she was really infatuated with went by the name of Midnight. And y'all who are true Sister Souljah fans know all about Midnight and the Midnight book trilogy that came after this book. But yeah, we first met or came to know Midnight from book 1, part 1 of The Coldest Winter Ever, when he was working for Winter's father, Santiago. Midnight was one of, if not the most loyal people in the Santiago camp. Santiago referred to him as a young, strong lieutenant. And even though he was actually younger than most of the crew, he was loyal and never tried to get out of pocket with Santiago or test his gangster. So yeah, he was really, really loyal. And that was a good thing, except for the fact that Winter wanted him. She desired him something terrible. You said yes, he was. He is fine. Midnight is fine as wine, y'all. Ooh-wee. And y'all know I love me a dark chocolate black man. That's Midnight. But yeah, she was attracted to Midnight. Probably because he was kind of like her father. Midnight, he was a little rough around the edges. He was a hustler. He's from the streets, and he had that whole gangster swag going on as well. He was also fly. He stayed dressed really nice. He wore the latest gear, the newest sneakers, and although although he wasn't that old, he was mature for his age. But most of all, he was tall, dark, sexy. Midnight was so dark that Winter had assumed, he got his name because the only thing darker than that dude was Midnight. Thus the nickname. So that's how she thinks that he got his name. But Midnight never paid her any mind. One of the reasons she believed was because that he never gave her the time of day was because he was 5 years older than her. So he probably looked at her as jailbait. But regardless, Winter, she would be practically throwing herself all over that man. Every time she was around him, wearing provocative clothing like mini skirts, halter tops, tight jeans, booty shorts. Y'all know how we used to dress back in the day now. Y'all know how we used to dress back in the day trying to get the fellas to notice us. And every girl back then had a cute mini skirt. Yes, I had me a mini skirt. I will never forget that little mini skirt. But anywho, I didn't wear that around my mama because that religious lady would have take that thing and shredded it to pieces and start using it around the house as washcloths or something. Cleaning rags, dusting rags. But yeah, so she was always trying to throw herself at him, salivating all over him, flirting with him, with no regard to how crazy she looked each and every single time that he ignored her. Midnight, he played basketball. He was tall. He was skilled at basketball. He would go down to the basketball court all the time, play with the fellas. And she would always make sure she was there to watch him play. And she'd be sitting on the side on the bleachers, just to cheering his on, screaming his name, Midnight, just screaming his name and stuff. As if she was like his mother or his girlfriend and he had a real game and she just screaming his name and all that. The loudest person on the bleachers trying to get his attention. Always just a mess, trying to get his attention and his affection. And still yet, he continued to ignore each and every one of her advances, child. Y'all ever had somebody like that, ladies or men? Somebody that you was so like in love with or in lust with, and you just was trying all kind of things to get their attention to no avail. They wasn't paying your ass no mind. They were paying your ass no mind. But yeah, and then as soon as she started getting older, as soon as she started getting sexier, he went from looking at her almost never to never looking at her at all, hardly ever looking at her. It was like the more she blossomed, the more beautiful she got. He went from to like he wasn't even trying to. And he worked for her daddy, Santiago, the one who was slashing people across the face from one ear to the other ear, leaving big old keloids across their face. Nah, he wasn't. He ain't trying it. He ain't trying. She tried it, but he ain't tried it. but even though she Winter couldn't snag Midnight, Winter had no problems getting a man. She didn't have no problems, in relationships or getting a man or whatever. She was still young, but she was hot. And she was fast. As a matter of fact, she even had a sugar daddy by the name of Sterling. Now, she had met Sterling at a grocery market in Lower Manhattan. It was like one crisp autumn morning. While needing some chapstick, she entered into this market where she met her soon-to-be sugar daddy. While handling her money at the register, because he worked at the register, and handing her back her change, she caught him looking her up and down. He was checking out her breastises and, her neckline and, just drooling all over her and stuff. And so then he said, "Is there anything else? Would you like your receipt?" To which she said, "Sure, if that's all you have to offer." Winter was a sassy, feisty, fast little thing. Back then, it didn't matter how old you was. If she wanted you, she would try to get you. And again, she was very young. Now, Sterling, who happened to be the store manager, he followed her as she walked towards the door, followed her out the door. He asked her name. She gave him her name. He asked her where she lived. She told him Brooklyn, and the rest was history. And that's Sterling, y'all. That's Sterling. He didn't have a chance with Winter. He didn't have a chance. Whenever he got paid every 2 weeks, she got paid every 2 weeks. Whatever money he took home from work, she took 25% right off the top, as if she was a bill collector, as if he was paying child support, and I guess he was, because she was a child. She was a child. When she met Sterling, she was approaching 16 years old. She wasn't 16 quite yet. But as far as her sweet 16, when her sweet 16 did come around, she was expecting no less than the best from her father. But instead, what she got was some shocking news. For her birthday, as usual, the family went to Baskin Robbins, for her favorite birthday ice cream cake. And as usual for her birthday, her father handed her a jewelry box. This one was actually a long, slim box. It had gold wrapping paper. And inside was a brand new diamond tennis bracelet. Now, she was ecstatic about seeing the bracelet. It was what happened next that she was excited about. Her father also gave her a birthday card. And while Winter was up there, playing with her bracelet, trying to get the thing on, trying to get the thingamajang on, her mother ended up opening the card to read it. And when her mother opened the card, out fell two Polaroid pictures. Confused, her mother twisted her face like saying to her husband, "Baby, what's this?" Santiago replied proudly, "It's our new house in Long Island." Winter was in total shock because all she knew was the projects. All her family, her friends, memories were there. And in just one moment, her life was about to be uprooted from what she once knew. In the projects, she was loved, she was well known, she was respected, she had played, grew up, fought in the projects and in the streets of Brooklyn. And now she has to move to a bougie suburban neighborhood in Long Island. When it was like, "Dad, what happened to what you used to say about living in the hood? You want to be close to the peoples and all that because you want to know who's around you and all that kind of stuff. And you want your soldiers near you and all that kind of stuff." And he tried to explain to her, saying, "Baby girl, things are now on a new level. It was okay for them to live in the projects or in Brooklyn, in the past. But since his business keeps getting bigger and expanding, he can't allow people to get too familiar with his routine. He said, I have to switch it up to keep them guessing, and I'm going to have to use that one." I got to keep, switching it up to keep people guessing. But yeah, so her father, Santiago, he knew that although things were gravy right then, eventually someone would try to flex on him, trying to make it to the top. So he didn't want his family too close to the hood anymore. And as a result, the family started to prepare for the big move. Winter, when they began packing, she was thinking how much, I'm going to really miss hanging around my friends, hanging around my family. She had a circle of friends that she was close to, that she could trust, that she grew up and fought with out in the streets. There was her one friend, Natalie. Natalie, let me make sure am I freezing up? I think I was freezing up because I was watching my phone and it looked like I was freezing up, so that's why I backed out and came back into the stream. So I think we good now. But she did, back to the story, back to the book review. She did have one friend named Natalie who Winter did everything with. Those two did everything together. They even lost their virginity together when they were only 12 years old by a set of twins. One was dating one twin, the other one was dating the other twin. They even both lied to each other, saying how it didn't hurt. So yeah, they did a lot of things together. And when you talk about dating twins, that's something I don't think I could do, is date a twin, because I just might accidentally slip up and fall on the wrong one. Especially if they're both are fine. I'm just saying. So yeah, I'm gonna leave the twins and the triplets and all them alone. I need a single, like a cigarette. I need a single. But yeah. Then she had some other friends. There was Toshi, Zakia, Simone, Monique. There was Reese. And she also had a close friend by the name of Shantae. Now, Shantae, she was the oldest one out of the clique, out of the crew. So, Shantae being, ever the wiser, she was the one to teach them about all the different sexual positions, how to put it on the boys and the menses. And one of Winter's other friends was Carmen, who was from Jamaica. Carmen, being from the island, taught them how to dance like the Jamaicans, how to wind up those hips and move those bodies real slow, sexy, and seductive. Winter and all her friends, they were all really close. They did a lot together, like I said. Even going to their friend Monique's funeral together. Now, Monique, as they called Neek, had passed away at the hands of her own mother. Her own mother. Her mother, who had found her man having sex with her daughter, then took Neek up to the roof of their building and pushed her off the roof, where Neek fell to her death. So again, what Winter's going to miss, the most is, her girls from Brooklyn and also the memories, good and bad. When Santiago finally brought his wife and daughters to the new crib, the Polaroid pictures that he had given them on Winter Sweet 16 did no justice whatsoever. That house was beautiful. It was grand. It was big. It was fancy. It was everything that his family could never imagine living in. Their new house was in a beautiful neighborhood in Long Island. And when you approach the house, when you drive up to the house, it has a long winding driveway with trees, lined up beside it on the way to the house. The doors to the house were really massive. Those doors where it's like two doors and you gotta pull, open the thing, big massive doors. But even though the house was extremely large, it was a mansion. It was still like warm and homey, like, you know what I'm saying? It had large white marble squares on the floor, that went across the entire house. It was really nice. It was really nice. And after he surprised them with the house, then he went and told them that they are welcome to lay it out, decorate it, whatever, however they want to decorate it with no limited expenses. So, of course, just like their old apartment, they filled the whole house full of designer everything. I mean, from the furniture to the rugs, to appliances, to, televisions, electronics, bedroom set, just everything. They laid the whole house out because they didn't have no limit, no budget. They had it like that. Thanks to Santiago, they had it like that. And where there once was, excuse me, but as far as the house was nice. They stayed in a good neighborhood, but they filled the house with furniture, all that. They try to make it like home. But it wasn't the same, of course. It wasn't the same. They could fill the house with a whole bunch of stuff. But what they could not fill the house with all the noises and all the sounds from Brooklyn, where they once had family and friends always surrounding them, they now had a mansion full of silence most of the time. Even with Winter, her mother, her father, her twin sisters, and her other sister, it still wasn't the same compared to, what they came from. And I'm going to take a drink on that. Mm. Voice get dry when you're talking a lot. So, and then also, not only that, but even their neighbors weren't really neighbors because of the fact that most of the houses nearby them was like a mile away. It'd be like a whole mile before they see, another house. So they were really like out there, in the middle of nowhere, how they were feeling. Now, sometimes Winter, she would venture out. She would take her siblings for a walk, through their new neighborhood or to the mall in Long Island. But she didn't stand out like she used to. Before they was in the projects, They were in the hood. Her daddy makes all this money, out there in the streets hustling. Um, they wore the best clothes, jewelry, getting their hair and nails done all the time. But where Winter one stood out in her expensive fashions, laid hair, makeup, nails, all that in Long Island, everybody had money. So therefore, there was nobody to impress. She didn't stick out like she did in Brooklyn. Everybody around them had money. They had nice homes. They had expensive whips. They had designer clothes. Anything you name it. Coach, Versace, Ralph Lauren, Chanel, Joan and Davis, Hilfiger, etc., etc. Everything that people used to wear a lot of back then. Winter was no longer that girl in her new surroundings. And even at her new school, she transferred to it was like at that point of the year where, everybody's already clicked up, everybody got their crew, they got their friends, they got their homies, and that really bothered her by making her miss their old neighborhood even more because she really didn't have nobody up there to kick it and hang with, and nobody knew her. And even if she walked around trying to be all impressive and stuff with her nice clothes on and everything, nobody looked at her like that because they all had that out there, you know what I mean? But also, not only was Winter missing, the streets from Brooklyn, but her mother was also going crazy in that big old house herself. And she felt like, we got this big old humongous house. We got this big old mansion. What's the use of having such a big and beautiful home if nobody else gets to see it, if nobody else gets to enjoy it? So, she wanted to share her home with her family and friends. And because up to that point, they didn't have no housewarming party. They didn't have nothing. It was like Santiago threw them up in that house, and that's where y'all at. That's where y'all gonna stay. No going back to Brooklyn. Nobody coming up here. And they like the next house closest to them is like a mile down the road. So that's kind of like really deserted. And so her mother, she worked on Santiago, mainly in the bedroom, but she worked on him. And he finally gave in to allow her mother to throw regular Saturday night parties. But only the truest of family and friends were invited to these parties. The parties were great, for her mother and father, for their families, aunts and uncles, things like that. But not a big thing when it came to Winter, being that she was too young to be, mingling with the grown folks. She got to be up there with her sisters, taking care of her sisters and the twins and all that, while her mom and them was partying. So one day, Winter, she politely and softly asked her father, could she get her hair done at Earlene's the next week, the next Friday? But then he was sensing something was up, and he was like, why you want to go all the way to Brooklyn? Why you want to go all the way to Brooklyn when we got all these nice salons out here on Long Island? You don't need to be catching no trains and planes and buses and all that kind of stuff to get all the way to Brooklyn to get your hair done. But the thing about it was, Earlene's was like the place to go for what Winter's mother called the high roller girls. The females who were somebody and had money. They went there 2, 3, times a week to get their hair laid and sprayed. And not only that, but it was also a great spot to get a little bit of gossip. That good juicy gossip, the neighborhood, the hood gossip, while you're sitting there getting your hair whipped. You can always be brought up to date with like almost anything going on, everything going on, in Brooklyn, in the projects, at Earlene's. But being that Winter nor her mother had their own car yet, Santiago wasn't again too fond of her catching a bus or train, into Brooklyn just to get her hair done. And even when Winter suggested that she ride up there with him, because he goes back to Brooklyn like every morning, he do his runs. He's a hustler. So that's when he does like his weekly runs, like on Saturday morning or whatnot. And he shut that down real quick. He shut it down real quick because Santiago doesn't mix business with pleasure, especially when it comes to his family. He ain't gonna be getting caught going, to check on his stash, to check on his guys, his street dudes, all that kind of stuff, to make sure business is straight, collecting money. He ain't about to do all that with his daughter, in the car. So anyway, a few days later, Winter calls her old sugar daddy. Remember Sterling? She called Sterling, and he was so excited to hear from her because he hasn't heard from her for a minute. He didn't know where she was, where she went. So he was more than willing to make the drive out to Long Island to pick up Winter. Now, she did have to play it off, though, as if she actually cared about him, because she did not. That was just sugar daddy, okay? And she would have to come up with like brilliant ideas, why she can't spend the entire trip with him, why she can't spend the night with him, but if push came to shove, she would be willing to like give him a blowjob or, something like that, just to, satisfy, pacify him, to show him a little bit of appreciation for picking her up from Long Island. But as soon as she got to Earlene's, that place was lit as usual, off the chain. Everybody who's anybody is up in there getting their hair whipped. And Winter, it was like getting a fix. Like it was like a junkie getting a fix. She ain't been in the hood. She ain't been in Brooklyn in a long time. She ain't been around her crew, her clique. So it was just like getting a fix, and she was getting like getting full of what has been going on in her old neck of the woods. She got caught up on everything from who's pregnant, to who's getting paid out there in them streets, to who got caught up in them streets, to who died in them streets, to who finally coming back home from jail, come back home to the streets. Everything. And she was sitting in the nail salon, with her friend Natalie. And while they were up there just gossiping and get caught up on everything, a girl walks into the salon, and Natalie kind of like elbow her, like, hey, look over there. There goes Tasia. And Winter's like, yeah, and Winter's like, when she's back at home, she's that bitch. So she's like, yeah, and so what? There's Tasia. And then Natalie said, Tasia's fucking your man Midnight. Winter was like, oh, hell nah. No, that bitch ain't fucking my future husband. She still calls Midnight her future husband, even though she can't even make him her future boyfriend. He ain't thinking about that girl. And he never like gave her any time of the day. Yeah, that Midnight. But Midnight was still making money in the street, still working for her dad. And he done came up and got him a new Acura. It got the beats. It got like $5,000 worth of rims on the car, and he done came up with Tasia. He got him a new girl, a new boo. But all of a sudden, Winter, she done went from feeling like that bitch to feeling really jelly, over Midnight. But the good thing is she didn't react on it. She stayed cool, calm, collected, and then just bounced up out of there, once her hair was butter, once her shit was done. After leaving Earlene's, she and Natalie, they visited Winter's aunt Lori. Now, Lori's house is where Winter is supposed to be staying, on that weekend trip, that little trip to Brooklyn. Her mother had arranged it. So she was supposed to stay the night at Aunt Lori's, who still lived in the projects. But her mother, like most mothers, they gonna call to verify you are where you supposed to be. You sleep, lay in your head where you supposed to lay your head. So knowing that, Winter made sure to stop by her Aunt Lori, show her face, sit down and chit chat for a minute, to make sure her auntie can say, I did see Winter. She was here. It was one of those little things. And after kicking it for a while with her auntie, Winter and Natalie got dressed, headed out to Big Mo's spot. Now, Big Mo's spot, it was one of the local bar and dance joints, that allows the young crowd to party, on Friday nights. Not young, like underage, but like maybe 21 to 25, young like that. And we all know that Winter just turned 16. So she ain't nowhere near 21. But anyway, she knows that Big Mo, they don't really like card check. They don't really check ID, things like that. So that's where her and her clique, normally goes to hang out. So anyway, everybody was at Big Mo's that night. All the players, the hustlers, the divas, the chicken heads, everybody was there. And who did she just so happen to see at the bar? None other than that beautiful, tall, dark, sexy, handsome Midnight. hmm Midnight. That man is fine, y'all. That man is fine. Am I coming in good, y'all? Y'all let me know if I'm coming in good with sound and visual. Let me know. I'm checking. Okay. I'm checking on my phone and it sounds like we're pretty good. But yes, Midnight is fine. Midnight is fine. And everybody was there. All the hustlers, all the ballers, everybody was there. It was expensive cars all around the building, with loud systems, rims. The cars was packed. It was bumper to bumper all around for blocks. Everybody there was packed. It was lit. It was jumping. And on the inside, every genre of music from reggae to slow jams, hip hop, everything was being played up in there. And Winter, she was 15 deep in the bar, which sounds kind of like how we used to go out back in the day. Me and my girls, it was probably normally no less than 6 or 7 of us. No less than 6 or 7, and sometimes up to like 10, 15 going out to the bar. And that was one thing we didn't play with. We did not go out by, so we made sure that if something went down, we was deep, and nobody would get jumped. How it is when you're young. But anyway, we was like 3, 4 deep. As far as cars, like 3 cars deep. But shortly after entering the bar, Winter ordered a Long Island iced tea, which is my favorite drink to order at the bar. And she spots Midnight. Midnight. It's been a minute since she laid eyes on Midnight. And we know he also has a new woman by the name of Tasia. But did Winter care? Hell no. Winter didn't care about that bitch. Who? Like she said at the salon. Tasia who? And what? Don't care. She didn't care. Winter and her crew walked up to Midnight and his crew. And just picture it, ladies. You in the club. It's tight. It's packed. And you trying to slide through the club and you see a fine man that you might be interested in, and you kind of graze him with your body, like he either gonna feel the top, the bottom, or the back, depending on which way you face it. Okay. That's what her and her girls is doing to Midnight and his crew. They was bumping all up on them, rubbing their bodies all up on them. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You trying to let him know literally that you are feeling him, okay? But once in front of her future husband, Winter said, "What's up, Midnight? Haven't seen you in a while. What's up? What's been going on?" That man must have looked at her with such disdain, like, like, what do you want, little girl? That's how he was looking at her. Like, what do you want, little girl? Because keep in mind, at that time, Winter was still only like 16 years old, and Midnight was 5 years older than her. She was looking at him seductively, licking her lips like LL Cool J. She was so close to him that they could have had a baby just standing right there next to each other, standing up, or at least practice having a baby. They were that close. Midnight said, "What do you want?" And Winter taking it back, like, what he just tell me? What he just say to me? What do I want? She was like, no, he didn't. Ask me, Winter Santiago, what do I want? But she replied with, what do I want? Then she graced her hand with his hand. Oh, I want it all. I want it all. He must have snatched his hand away from her ass so quick. Then he told her, well, that makes you like all these other bitches in here now, doesn't it? That girl was furious, to say the least. To say the least. And reading her mind, he dared her to tell her father. He dared her to tell Santiago because he said, I am my own man. So what you gonna do? Run home and tell daddy? She was so embarrassed and let down, furious, pissed. He turned his back on her and walked off, leaving her hot ass standing right there, sipping on that Long Island where she needs to get her ass back to. She needs to get back to Long Island instead of down there being all fast, trying to get with midnight. But after leaving the club, Winter and her crew headed back to the projects. On the way there, Winter spotted Midnight. He was driving in his new, he got that new whip. He doing big things in the street working for her father, Santiago. So he's driving in his new $50,000 Acura. He got about $5,000 worth of rims on it. Midnight slowed down next to the ladies and rolled down his window, calling Winter's name. She was surprised. He called her name real rough like, Winter, get in. Get in this car. And she was like, he rudely dissed me back at the bar. So she was taken aback by him demanding that she get in the car. But she did get in the car. She was so taken aback. She didn't even remember walking to the car. She didn't even remember walking to the car, but she walked to the car. She got in the car, and she was thinking the whole entire time while in the car that I got his ass. She said, what should I have expected? Did he forget? I'm the queen of this ghetto. I'm the queen of these projects. I'm the queen of Brooklyn. He got me all the way messed up. He may have came to his senses. That's what happened. She jumped in his car thinking, I kept sweating him, and now he's sweating me. It worked. I done broke him down. That's what she was thinking, y'all. And while riding next to Midnight in his fancy car, listening to his smooth stereo system, she suddenly heard the music stop. And out came the voice of Sister Souljah, who she was not too fond of. And she went to touch his stereo because she was going to turn the station. He snatched her hand. Don't you touch my shit. Oh my God. Everybody knows what it's like when somebody touch your radio in your car. Like, don't you touch my shit. Ask me, can I turn the station for you? Don't touch my shit. But then the next thing you know, they were on the Long Island Expressway. And so in confusion, she asked him, where are we going? He told her fast ass, I'm taking you home. Your father called and told me to bring you home. So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking you back to Long Island where you belong. Santiago, her father, was pissed. He had found out that Winter had planned to spend the night in Brooklyn. So, for $150 from Santiago, which was a lot of money back then. That was a lot of money back then. Midnight agreed to bring Winter back home. He agreed to take that trip out to Long Island. Return trip, $150. And after arriving back home, Santiago scolded Winter. He scolded her. He was so upset, telling her, you just don't understand. It's because of who she is, because of who he is, because of who they are, that she cannot just wander off and go anywhere unprotected. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter the least bit that she was going home to a familiar place. Winter didn't understand, though. She didn't understand why her father was so upset. She was like, Santiago, you always always taught us never be afraid of anything. What are we running from? She just don't understand. First, he moved them all out the hood without no notice. And now she can't even go back to the hood. Santiago made it to the top, y'all. He made it to the top. So there's always a possibility of somebody trying to harm him and or his family to bring him back down. So, it is what it is, but still not understanding. She told him, those are my streets, daddy. And he responded with, the streets don't love nobody. Streets don't love nobody. Nobody. But all of her life, Winter, her father had basically taught her to never hide from anybody, never run from a fight. But for her father, it's not about hiding. It's not about running. It's more about being smart. Her mother later explained to her later that night that Santiago, he is overprotective. He's overprotective, and sometimes he goes overboard. She don't like all of his tactics. But he means well, and he really, really loves each and every one of them and is looking out for their safety, for their best interest. And she also told Winter that he's going to buy her mother a car pretty soon. So hearing that, Winter, she got a little excited because she knew that now she and her mother will be able to travel back and forth to Brooklyn, even if they have to sneak and do it. So she was excited about that. Later that night, though, while peeing up in the suburbs and, sexually frustrating, Winter ain't had none in a minute, y'all, since she moved to Long Island. She blazed up a joint, and after getting high, she eventually went to sleep. While sleeping, she had a dream about who else? Midnight. She had a dream about Midnight. Midnight had stopped by their home and basically told her father that he loves his daughter, Winter. He also told Santiago that he had been working long and hard and stacking up his bread in order to provide for Winter in the same manner that she's accustomed to. Not only has he been planning, but he's also looking at buying a home in their neighborhood in Long Island. That way, Winter can still be close to her family, And Santiago, being a man who has always respected and trusted Midnight, always been fond of Midnight, embraced him and gave him his blessings. Midnight then looked at Winter and said, pack your stuff, shorty. It's me and you from here on out. Then he placed a ring on her finger. Ring, 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 ring. The phone snaps her out of her sweet dream. It was her friend Natalie. Calling to get the 411 on what had happened. What had happened was nothing. We know Midnight took her ass back home. Her daddy paid him $150 to drive up to Long Island and back to drop off his daughter. So nothing happened between the two. But Winter was too embarrassed to tell the truth, so therefore she lied to her friend. Lied to her best friend. Describing how she and Midnight first went out for a bite at a nice diner in Queens. She even made up their meals. She was like, we ate good. I had shrimp and fries. He had steak, eggs, and potatoes. Lie after lie. And then she said they went to a nearby spot by a river and they got busy in his brand new Acura. Her homegirl, Natalie, said, get the hell out of here. You lying, bitch. But Winter said, no. That's for real. That's really what happened. That's really what happened, is we got it on to the break of dawn. And the next bitch that gets inside his car is going to smell my scent all over it. That is end of scene. That was chapters 1-3 in my own version of the book. This is just a review. I'm not reading the book. A lot of us already read this book. Some of us read it when it first came out 20 years ago. Some read it 10 years ago. Some 5 years ago. I know people who just found out about the book like last year or something. But for us who read it a long time ago, this book, like almost every single girl, woman has read this book. A lot of guys too. And in honor of part 2 of The Coldest Winter Ever coming out in another month, we are reviewing the first book, The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Souljah, a couple of chapters at a time leading up to the release of the new book, part 2 of Winter Santiago's life. That's coming up next month, and you can order that on Amazon. You can pre-order it right now, where they'll put you down, and then they won't charge you until your book is about to be shipped out when the books become available. But anywho, I hope y'all enjoyed my version of chapters 1 through 3. I hope you were entertained. If you come in after this video and you watch my review and you got something to say about the book, please feel free to put it in the comment section. Make sure you also like the video, share the video, subscribe to the Hood Table if you're not already subscribed. The Hood Table. For those of y'all watching me from Facebook, is DA Hood Table. The Hood Table on Facebook, IG, Twitter, our website, thehoodtable.com, and on YouTube. So please follow us. And as usual, stay safe. Be blessed. Remain vigilant. I will be back in a few more days to review a couple of more chapters with you guys. So if you already subscribed to my channel, make sure you got the notification bell on so that you can know whenever I get live. You get the notifications. It'll tell you like 30 minutes or an hour or so in advance, when the show is about to start. Then you'll get the notification again when we starting. So make sure you got the notification bell hit, and always remember, keep it hood. Bye.